last story for you here. This is another story involving an inmate in prison, and this is another atheist inmate. This is a guy named Mark Janny, and the story in his case goes all the way back to 2015. In 2015, Mark Janny was released from prison. It doesn't matter why he was in there, but also he paid his debt to society. He was a free man. He has a parole officer, though. His parole officer says that if you want to stay out of prison, well, there are certain conditions you have to meet for your parole. And one of them is you need a place to stay. You need a residence of record. And the parole officer, whose name is John Gamez, says you have to live at the Denver Rescue Mission, which is a Christian homeless shelter in Colorado. And the thing is, like, I'm not kidding about a Christian Christian homeless shelter. That shelter requires residents to participate in worship services, Bible studies, and go through faith-based counseling. And Mark Janny here is an atheist. He can lie to you, but he also doesn't want to participate in any of that stuff, and he shouldn't have had to for all the reasons we just talked about. The courts should not be allowed to force anybody, much less an atheist, to attend Christian anything as a requirement of parole. So Mark Janny suggested an alternative. He actually had some family friends, and he asked if he could stay in their home, so he had a place of residence. That option was rejected. I'm not sure why, but Gamez says no. So we went to Mark Janny goes to the Christian Homeless Center. He does not participate in the religious stuff. And because he didn't participate, they kick him out of the shelter. And because he was kicked out of the shelter, Gamez revoked Mark Janny's parole and sent him back to prison. And when the parole board saw Mark Janny a few weeks later, they said, yeah, you violated the conditions of your parole. So they sent him back to jail for 5 months. That's 5 months longer than he should have had to be in jail. He had already paid his debts. So he was incarcerated unnecessarily because he refused to participate in a Christian ministry. So I should say, like, there was other incidents, like he gets into a fight with someone in the prison. That's why he had to stay there 5 months. But again, he's only in there because he didn't play along with the Christian thing. So in June of 2020, the ACLU and Americans United for Separation of Church and State, I should back up here for a second. While he's there for those 5 months, he files a lawsuit against his parole officer, but he tries to do it himself and he doesn't have a lawyer. And like, if you're not a lawyer, you don't know how to write those things. And a judge tosses out that case because, I don't know, it looked unprofessional. He didn't do it right. So in 2020, ACLU and Americans United say, listen, we're stepping in here. We're going to appeal that decision on your behalf, and we're going to take up this case on your behalf. And so this is from the ACLU. ACLU and Americans United courts parolee Janny should not have been jailed for refusing to attend worship services. So they take up the case on his behalf. And guess what? This paid off because in 2021, the appellate court says we're overturning the dismissal of the case. And I'm going to skip the legalese here, but they did say every person has the basic right to be free from state-sponsored religious coercion. And they said, listen, start over. You can bring this case to trial. We undo the fact that the district court threw your case out. So he had to start over, but that case could proceed. And the reason I bring all this up is because this week there was a big update to the case. And here it is. Colorado man secures another court victory after he was jailed for refusing to attend Christian worship services while on parole. The big update is that a U.S. district judge says, yeah, I looked at your case and you can absolutely move forward to try to get financial damages for everything you went through. And you can argue that your religious freedom was constitutionally violated. So they say, I'm going to scroll down here for a second. The district court has ruled that Mark Janny is eligible to recover damages for the violations of his religious freedom. Specifically, he is eligible to recover punitive damages, compensatory damages for loss of liberty, economic damages for loss of wages for part of the period of his confinement, and nominal damages. So it doesn't mean he has any money yet, doesn't mean he won the case on the merits yet, but this case gets to move forward, which is the thing he was trying to do a few years ago, and it just didn't work. But now there's a chance his case is going to be heard on the merits with lawyers who know what they're doing. And so, I mean, I'm optimistic that this will end well. I hope, and knock on wood, I hope it goes well. Rachel Laser, who's the CEO of Americans United, said, again, our government must never force anyone to practice a faith that is not their own, and of course, must never jail anyone for refusing to submit to religious proselytization. So this is a case against the parole officer, not the prison. And they're saying that guy violated the constitutional freedom. Like, I want everyone involved in prolonging this guy's imprisonment to be penalized. But at least in this case, the person most responsible will at least be taken to court. And that's a huge victory. And we'll see what happens with the merits. We'll follow up on this later.